Poor single mom was fired for being late. The woman watching was a millionaire. CEO in disguise. The morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of Riverside Mall in suburban Chicago as Sarah Mitchell hurried toward the entrance of Bella's boutique, her heart pounding with a familiar mix of anxiety and determination. At 28, Sarah possessed the kind of natural beauty that turned heads, flowing auburn hair that caught the light, striking green eyes, and a smile that could brighten even the darkest days. But today, worry lines creased her forehead as she checked her phone. 9:17 a.m., 17 minutes late. "Please, not today," she whispered to herself, clutching her purse tighter as she navigated through the early morning shoppers. Sarah had been working at the upscale boutique for 8 months, and it was the best job she'd managed to secure since her divorce 2 years ago. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough to keep her and her 6-year-old daughter Emma in their small apartment, and the employee discount helped stretch their tight budget for clothes. As she pushed through the boutique's glass doors, the familiar scent of expensive perfume and leather greeted her. The store was already bustling with morning customers, and Sarah could see her manager, Mrs. Henderson, standing near the register with her arms crossed, her expression stern. "Sarah," Mrs. Henderson called out, her voice carrying across the store. "My office, now." Sarah's stomach dropped. She glanced around the store, noticing how the customers' conversations seemed to quiet, their eyes following her as she made the walk of shame toward the back office. Among them was a woman in her early 40s, impeccably dressed in a simple but elegant navy blazer and dark jeans. She had platinum blonde hair pulled back in a neat ponytail and wore minimal makeup that highlighted her natural beauty. What was striking about her wasn't just her appearance, but the way she carried herself, confident, observant, yet somehow unassuming. She appeared to be browsing through a rack of designer scarves, but her attention was clearly focused on the fayence unfolding drama. This was Victoria Sterling, though no one in the store knew that the woman casually examining a $300 silk scarf was actually the CEO of Sterling Enterprises, a multinational corporation worth over $2 billion. Victoria had built her empire from the ground up, starting with a small tech startup in her garage 15 years ago. Today, she was taking a rare day off from her demanding schedule, choosing to spend it like any other person, shopping, observing, and connecting with the world outside her executive bubble. "Close the door," Mrs. Henderson said as soon as Sarah entered the small office cluttered with inventory boxes and fashion magazines. Sarah complied, her hands trembling slightly. "Mrs. Henderson, I'm so sorry I'm late. Emma had a fever last night, and I had to wait for the pediatrician's office to open this morning to—" "Sarah, stop." Mrs. Henderson held up her hand, her expression softening just slightly. "Look, I like you. You're good with customers. You work hard when you're here, and you're honest. But this is the 4th time this month you've been late." I know. But there are no buts in retail, Sarah. Our customers expect us to be open and fully staffed at 9 a.m. sharp. When you're late, it affects everyone. Jenny has to cover your section. I have to handle the register alone, and customers notice. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Please, Mrs. Henderson, I need this job. I promise it won't happen again. I'll figure something out with Emma's childcare. Sarah, I've given you chances. I've covered for you with corporate when they asked about our staffing consistency. But I got a call yesterday from the district manager. They're cracking down on attendance issues across all locations." The words Sarah had been dreading finally came. "I'm sorry, but I have to let you go." The world seemed to stop. Sarah felt like she was underwater, everything muffled and distant. "No, please, I'll do anything. I'll work extra shifts. The decision is final. I need you to collect your things and turn in your name tag." Sarah's legs felt weak. She thought about Emma, who was probably in her 1st grade classroom right now, excited about show and tell this afternoon. She thought about their rent, due in 10 days. She thought about the nearly empty refrigerator at home and Emma's growing feet that needed new shoes. Can I at least finish out the week?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Henderson shook her head. "I'm sorry. Company policy for attendance-related terminations." Sarah nodded numbly, gathering what little she had in. The office's spare cardigan, her water bottle, and a small photo of Emma she kept tucked in her purse. As she walked back through the store, she could feel every eye on her. The shame was overwhelming, but she held her head high, refusing to let the customers see her break down. Victoria Sterling watched the entire scene unfold from her position near the scarves. She observed how Sarah maintained her dignity despite the humiliation, how she gently said goodbye to her coworker Jenny, and how she managed a weak smile when a regular customer asked if she was okay. "Just a family emergency," Sarah told the customer. "Jenny will take great care of you." It was a lie told with such grace that Victoria felt something stir in her chest, a recognition of strength under pressure that she rarely saw, even in her. Boardroom filled with executives. As Sarah walked toward the exit, Victoria made a split-second decision. She approached the register where Jenny was now working alone, looking flustered and sad. "Excuse me," Victoria said, her voice warm and approachable. "I couldn't help but notice what just happened. That young woman who just left Sarah was it." Jenny looked around nervously, then leaned in closer. "Yeah, Sarah, she was really great. It's just so unfair. She's a single mom and her little girl gets sick sometimes, you know. She never called in unless it was serious." "Does she have another family in the area?" "No, I don't think so. She moved here from somewhere down south after her divorce. She's pretty much on her own with her daughter." Victoria nodded thoughtfully. "What size would you say she wears?" Jenny looked confused. Probably a size 8. "Why? I'd like to purchase something for her. Something nice. Do you have her contact information?" I don't think I should give that out. But ... Jenny hesitated, then grabbed a business card from behind the counter and wrote on the back, "This is the coffee shop where she sometimes works part-time on weekends. Moonbeam Cafe on Maple Street. They might be able to get a message to her." Victoria took the card, smiling. "Thank you. And could you help me pick out something special? Something that would make someone feel valued?" Meanwhile, Sarah sat in her car in the parking lot, finally allowing herself to cry. She had exactly $347 in her checking account and Emma's school. Lunch money for next week was already budgeted out of that. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through job listings, knowing that most retail positions wouldn't start for her immediately and that she'd have to explain why she was fired from her last job. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emma's school. "Hi, Mrs. Mitchell. Just a reminder that tomorrow is the book fair. Emma is very excited and mentioned that you promised to let her pick out 2 books. The fair runs until 4 p.m. Thanks." Sarah closed her eyes and leaned back against the headrest. She had promised Emma those books 3 weeks ago, back when she thought her job was secure. Now she'd have to find a way to break that promise to her daughter, along with so many others. She started her car, a 2015 Honda Civic with a fading paint job and a stubborn air conditioner, and drove home to their small apartment. She had to figure out how to tell Emma that things were about to get even tighter, and that Mommy had to spend the day looking for a new job instead of being there when Emma got home from school. As she pulled into her apartment complex, Sarah didn't notice the sleek black sedan that had followed her from the mall, or the woman inside taking notes on her phone. Victoria Sterling had made her decision. She'd built her empire on recognizing potential and taking calculated risks. Today, she'd witnessed something that all her wealth and success couldn't buy: authentic grace under pressure. She was about to make an investment that had nothing to do with profit margins and everything to do with the kind of person she wanted to be. But first, she needed to do some research. 3 days had passed since Sarah's termination, and they had been the longest 3 days of her life. She'd applied to 17 different positions, from retail stores to restaurant work, but nothing had materialized. The few callbacks she'd received had ended quickly once she explained her previous job situation. Emma, bless her heart, had taken the news about the book fair with the kind of mature understanding that broke Sarah's heart. "It's okay, Mama," she'd said, curling up in Sarah's lap. "We can go to the library instead. They have lots of books there too." It was Thursday afternoon, and Sarah was at Moonbeam Cafe, the cozy coffee shop where she'd been picking up shifts on weekends for the past 3 months. The owner, Mrs. Chun, was a kind woman in her 60s who had been incredibly understanding about Sarah's situation. "I wish I could offer you more hours," Mrs. Chun had said earlier, "but we're barely making it ourselves. But you can work the full weekend shift, and if anyone calls in sick during the week, you're my first call." Sarah was wiping down tables when the bell above the door chimed. She looked up to see a strikingly beautiful woman enter, the same woman who had been in the boutique the day she was fired. Sarah recognized her immediately. Her face was hard to forget. Victoria Sterling looked around the cafe with genuine appreciation. It was exactly the kind of place she would have loved to own if she weren't running a multinational corporation. Exposed brick walls, mismatched vintage furniture, and the smell of freshly roasted coffee beans filling the air. Local artwork hung on the walls, and there was a small bookshelf in the corner with a sign that read, "Take a book, leave a book." "Good afternoon," Victoria said, approaching the counter where Sarah was now standing. "I'll have a large cappuccino. With an extra shot, please." Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she prepared the order. She was certain this woman remembered her from the boutique, and the embarrassment came flooding back. "Here you go," she said, sliding the cup across the counter. "That'll be $4.75. Victoria handed her a $10 bill. "Keep the change." "And, Sarah, could we talk for a moment?" Sarah's face went pale. You know my name? I was at Bella's boutique on Monday. I saw what happened." Sarah's first instinct was to run, but something in Victoria's tone stopped her. It wasn't pity or condescension, it was something else entirely. "Mrs. Chun?" Sarah called to the back office. "Could you cover the counter for a moment?" The two women sat at a small table by the window. Victoria studied Sarah's face, noting the exhaustion around her eyes, but also the determination that hadn't wavered despite her circumstances. "First, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Victoria Sterling." Sarah nodded politely, having no idea she was sitting across from one of the most successful businesswomen in the country. "I want to apologize for what happened at the boutique," Victoria continued. "I witnessed something that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Please, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I watched you lose your job, and I watched how you handled it. With dignity, with grace, thinking about others even in your worst moment. That's not something you see every day." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. I try to be professional, even when things don't go my way. Tell me about your daughter." Sarah's face immediately lit up despite her circumstances. "Emma, she's 6 in first grade. She's everything to me. Smart as a whip, funny, kind to everyone she meets. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up because she loves animals." "And her father?" Sarah's expression darkened slightly. "He's not in the picture, hasn't been for 2 years. It's just me and Emma." Victoria nodded. "What did you do before retail?" "I have a degree in business administration from Southern Illinois University. I worked in marketing for a small firm in St. Louis before I got married. But when Emma was born, I stayed home, and then after the divorce... Sarah shrugged. "I needed something immediately, and retail was hiring." "You're overqualified for retail." "Maybe, but being overqualified doesn't pay the bills. I needed something steady, something that would work with Emma's schedule. Victoria leaned forward. What if I told you I might have an opportunity for you? Sarah's eyes widened. What kind of opportunity? I run a company. We're always looking for people who can think on their feet, who can handle pressure, who understand what it means to put others first. People who have real-world experience, not just degrees and theories. What kind of company? Victoria smiled. We do a lot of things: technology, consulting, investment. We're growing rapidly, and we need people who can grow with us. Sarah felt her heart racing. I don't understand. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're a single mother who's been juggling multiple responsibilities and still maintaining your integrity. I know you're educated, but not too proud to work retail to support your daughter. I know you're punctual and reliable. What happened at the boutique was about circumstances, not character. How could you possibly know that? Victoria's expression grew serious because I made some calls. I spoke to Mrs. Chun here, who told me you've never been late for a weekend shift in 3 months. I spoke to Jenny at the boutique, who said you were one of the most helpful and knowledgeable employees they'd ever had. I even spoke to your pediatrician's office with your permission, which I'm asking for now, and they confirmed that you brought Emma in on Monday morning for a fever. Sarah stared at her, speechless. You investigated me? I did my due diligence. In my line of work, you learn to spot potential. And Sarah, you have something that can't be taught: character. What exactly are you offering? Victoria pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. Sarah's eyes widened as she read it. Victoria Sterling, CEO, Sterling Enterprises. You're Victoria Sterling? I am. And I'm offering you a position as my executive assistant. The salary is $85,000 a year, plus full health benefits, a company car, and a childcare allowance. The position comes with opportunities for advancement based on performance. Sarah felt like she was dreaming. I can't, this isn't real. It's very real, but I need to be honest with you about what this job entails. I'm demanding. I work long hours, I travel frequently, and I expect excellence. This isn't charity, Sarah. This is business. I believe you can do the job, but you'll have to prove it every single day. Why me? You could have anyone. Victoria was quiet for a moment, then said, 5 years ago, I was at a conference in New York. I was in a taxi, and we got stuck in traffic because of an accident. I watched a woman get out of her car, which had been rear-ended, and instead of screaming at the other driver, she was checking to make sure he was okay. Turns out he was an elderly man who had had a dizzy spell. She stayed with him until the paramedics arrived, even though her car was totaled and she was clearly upset. What does that have to do with me? That woman understood that in a world where everyone is looking out for themselves, true strength comes from looking out for others. I saw that same quality in you on Monday. In your worst moment, you were still thinking about your coworker, still being kind to customers, still maintaining your dignity. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the job. Say you'll give me 6 months to prove that sometimes the best business decisions are the ones that come from the heart. Sarah looked at the business card then. Back at Victoria. What about Emma? The hours you mentioned ... There's an excellent after-school program in the building where I work. Emma would be picked up from school by our company driver, brought to the building, and you could see her throughout the day. During school breaks, there's a full childcare program. And Sarah? There's no rule that says you can't bring her to the office when needed. I believe in supporting working mothers because I believe strong families make strong employees. For the first time in months, Sarah felt hope blooming in her chest. When would I start? Monday, if you're interested. Sarah thought about Emma, about the book she couldn't buy, about the rent that was due, about the future that had seemed so uncertain just an hour ago. She thought about the woman sitting across from her, who had every reason to walk away from someone else's problems but had chosen to step in instead. "Yes," she said, her voice stronger than it had been in days. "Yes, I accept." Victoria smiled, and for the first time, Sarah saw past the successful businesswoman to the kind person underneath. "Good. Here's what we'll do. Tomorrow you'll come to my office for orientation. We'll get you set up with everything you need. And Sarah?" "Yes?" "Go buy Emma those books. Consider it in advance on your first paycheck." As Victoria stood to leave, she paused at the door. "One more thing. The position comes with a 6-month review. If at any point either of us feels it's not working out, we can part ways professionally. But I have a feeling we're going to make a great team." After Victoria left, Sarah sat alone at the table, staring at the business card in her hands. Mrs. Chun approached, having overheard parts of the conversation. "Sarah, honey, do you know who that was?" "Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises. That woman is worth billions. She's been featured on the cover of Forbes 3 times. And she just offered you a job?" Sarah looked up, tears streaming down her face, but for the first time in months, they were tears of joy. She did. She really did. That evening, Sarah sat with Emma at their small kitchen table, helping her with homework. Emma was working on a writing assignment about heroes, and she looked up at her mother with serious 6-year-old eyes. "Mama, are you a hero?" Sarah thought about the question. A week ago, she would have said no. She was just a single mom doing her best, often failing, always struggling. But today, she realized that maybe heroism wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was about not giving up, about maintaining your values even when things got difficult, about believing that tomorrow could be better than today. "I think," Sarah said, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face, "that we're all heroes, in our own way. And sometimes, the best heroes are the ones who help other heroes when they need it most." Emma smiled and went back to her homework. Sarah picked up her phone and sent a text message to Victoria. "Thank you for seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I won't let you down." The response came back immediately. "I never doubted that for a second. See you Monday, Sarah. We have work to do." As Sarah tucked Emma into bed that night, she realized that sometimes the most extraordinary things happen in the most ordinary moments. Sometimes, the person who changes your life is standing right there in the crowd, watching, waiting for the right moment to step forward. And sometimes, the best investment isn't in stocks or bonds or real estate. It's in people, in potential, in the belief that everyone deserves a second chance to show the world what they're truly capable of. The story of Sarah Mitchell and Victoria Sterling was just beginning, but it was already proving that kindness, when combined with opportunity, can create something far more valuable than money: hope, dignity, and the chance to build a better future for the people we love most.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.